No.
Okay.
Are you making that?
No, but
Oh,
you are.
I am?
Yeah, I got this for you.
To make it
I
right now,
Well,
or?
no, not
Oh,
right
okay.
now, but like I got it from Daiso when you first left for Seattle. That's how
Oh,
long ago
wow.
I've had it. I just haven't been able to see you, or I keep forgetting it when I go to the
That's true.
church.
I've only seen you, yeah, in passing
Yeah,
at church, yeah.
and then of course,
That's right. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. June '07. That's when it came out.
yeah. Look at the back. There's a sticker.
Nine
It's in
pounds? Or
it's
no,
6 euros.
euros.
My mom was like euros when she first saw it because she didn't know I went to Paris. She was
Oh.
like euro, and I was like, oh yeah, my friend Joey went to Paris, and I asked him to get me something about cooking, and he got me that.
You sneak, you sneak. I've never
Sneaky.
seen this one. That look
Yeah,
it,
I
that
saw it
looks
in
really
Daiso,
hard.
and then I remembered you did one, and it was absolutely atrocious. Like the taste, but it was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. It not only was it atrocious to look at, but it was also like I was messing
what
up a lot too.
what
So
did it taste
I mean, it just tasted like chemical candy, you
like?
know, so kind of like cough syrup.
Mm.
Which it's like, okay, shocker, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there's also like a lot of cutting you have to do, and there's also a lot of like precise water droplets you need to put in, and they say it's got to be clean water and blah 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 blah, that sort of stuff.
Ugh.
So I'm really excited to show you what the panda is going to look like. I guarantee it's going to be really frightening once I'm done with it.
Oh yeah. I don't know though if it has like a an expiration date.
I doubt it. It's all chemicals.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Preservatives and
oh,
stuff.
that's before next year. Yeah,
2026.
I told you it's all chemicals.
Damn. May May 13th. Where do you think you'll be in May 13th, 2026?
Ideally, I'll still be in Seattle.
Yeah.
The school year goes all the way until mid June, or like late-ish, mid late June is when the
Oh.
school year. Yeah, because we're quarters.
Uh,
So ideally, or at least predictably, I'll probably still be in Seattle.
where do you think I'll be?
You'll?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Not in California.
no.
Hopefully.
That
If
that
everything
that much I know.
if everything goes to plan.
Well, it seems like it's going to.
Well, we still don't know if financial aid will come through.
It will.
Okay.
It will.
Yeah.
Like you will be in debt.
Hell yeah.
Like you will be in debt, but like
Both
honestly,
of you two will be.
you will be. Yeah,
No, I already
you're going to be in more debt.
Yeah.
But I honestly, like, amidst all the mess that's happening right now, I am most optimistic for the undergrads that are like starting next year.
Mm.
Because I think once y'all are ready to graduate, whether it's to keep going in school or go into the workforce, things are going to get better for y'all.
Mm.
Like, I genuinely think that. I have like a bit of an optimism for it.
Yeah.
I think the next 4 years are going to be really tough for people like me, though. Perhaps I'm not entirely
Okay.
certain.
I'm a little concerned about Pell Grant because I no longer qualify for it, at least last year, but next year I will. Next school year I will. I know that
Well,
for sure.
I mean, so far you're already getting in the acceptances with the money that they're going to give
Yeah,
you too,
that's
also.
true.
And you know, it's not exactly a drop in the ocean, but it's also not going to cover everything either,
Yeah.
too. But that's, I mean, it's a good start
Every
though.
time I get an acceptance thing, I'm like 38. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
they don't give it to everybody.
Redlands gave me more. I'm not gonna
Well,
lie. But I was also
when you're a transfer
yeah,
student coming out of it,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, but that's still
I was
awesome.
also
They're giving you anything though.
yeah.
A lot of transfer students will come in with just like nothing. They'll just be like, "Fine, you can come, I guess."
I love it though because I emailed a screenshot to a professor, Dr. Rentz, and he was like, "Well, you know, if you need help negotiating, I'm your guy." Because their colleges, he said, are like car dealerships,
Hmm.
and I'm like, slay.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing on Sunday.
Colleges are all about like gemstones, you
Yeah.
know, and they give people money for potential gemstones, you know. They want somebody who
Diamond in
like
the rough.
when they graduate, they'll be able to proudly say they're an alum of Cornell of Iowa and 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 just like go off of that.
Well, now that I've gotten acceptance letters from other schools, there's no way in hell I'm ending up in Iowa. I was like, that was like my backup school,
Yeah.
and my backup schools have already, gotten back to me. It's like, hey, then come here. I'm like, yes, yay.
Yeah, so you know you have a way out then. So now like
Yeah,
the light at the end of the tunnel is actually like visible.
yeah. I'm feeling like you when when you were going for your doctorate stuff,
hmm
and then you finally got, word back from some schools. I don't remember much from that process. I'm gonna be honest,
because I
but
didn't really let you in on all of it.
yeah.
But I got rejected one by one
Mm.
actually.
Oh,
Um,
I remember that.
yeah, I got rejected one by one, and then I got a personal call from my now master teacher
Hmm.
asking me if I was still interested in it. Mostly just because there's some stuff going on with the school right now and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so he was just like, being pretty transparent about that. And he was like, "Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I'm still interested."
Hmm.
And so that process though started from like the beginning of February till about like the end of March.
And then
So I was really like,
on edge
yeah, and
for
like,
the whole,
yeah,
yeah,
like on the hook for like that
felt it.
that whole while. So that was
Yeah,
really anxious.
yeah. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you some stuff about that,
Okay.
but we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. I guess I should probably ask you the question that I ask all the teachers, which is, um, as a teacher, what do you want for your students, and what do you want from them? And having had you as a teacher, I think I have a pretty good idea, but I could be wrong.
Well, I know this is your podcast, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think that is.
Well, I think, well, since I had you in high school,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably a different experience from what your college students have now with you,
Mm-hmm.
slightly different. Um, I think you have a big emphasis on enjoying what you do, but also I feel like you have a huge emphasis on leadership, student leadership.
Hmm.
I think for a lot of the student leaders, when I was, you know, in your class, we were sort of take you. We were sort of you talked to us a lot more, and you kind of had us come out of our shells a little bit more and try and tell us and teach us why that was so important.
Hmm.
I think that's a huge part of it.
I suppose it is.
Yeah.
I think I think that definitely does or can very easily weave itself into a direction of leadership. But I will say that's not necessarily my intention.
Mm.
If that's a byproduct or if that's an end product of it, then awesome. Like that's amazing.
We also have to remember that my position was a little
True,
leadership centric, so
true.
I didn't really have a normal time.
Very true. So
Yeah.
maybe so definitely my language to you was probably a lot more
Yeah,
slated
and
to,
to
to,
like
to that. Yeah.
friends of mine in my circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that so there's probably that little bias there too.
Yeah.
Also, I guess in terms of the people that weren't,
Hmm.
working as like head of student staff, it's more, I guess, just getting people comfortable,
Hmm.
getting people to feel comfortable, and um, like you cannot make art unless you're comfortable with the person that's directing you to make the art.
Hmm.
And
Very true.
there's a difference between if you have like a making somebody feel comfortable with me doesn't necessarily mean that they all like me or that
Hmm.
they would go to the ends of the earth with me. It's more just like that I'm not there for any other reason other than to teach,
Hmm.
to make art with, and to like just try to have a good time while doing it.
Hmm.
um music teachers a lot and we'll always fall into this, that we just forget that music is also supposed to be fun,
Hmm.
for everybody involved.
Yeah.
For directors, there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more planning, there's a lot more that sort of stuff, but that's
Hmm.
not the student's burden.
Hmm.
That's the director's burden. And
Hmm.
so we can't put that burden on them.
Hmm.
And especially now, my perspective with the college kids too, it means a little bit more now. Like when I have like my band that meets on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Like I get stats from all of them, like what their majors are, what year they are. Like
Hmm.
I've had PhD, fourth year PhD students like in that band, not a single day absent.
Well, because they
Like
just enjoy it.
because they just enjoy it,
Hmm.
because they just like it. They're not gonna join any groups when they graduate. Then they're not gonna do it. But like while they're here and they have the opportunity, they do it because they
Yeah.
they enjoyed it. They remembered what it was like for them in high school or whatever, and that means a lot. Like they're not doing it for me. That's not what I think. I'm just like they're here because they want music still in their life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to try to give them the best possible experience I can. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's just straight up it. When it came to the high school, you know, nobody had to do band, and especially after the incident, after April 10th, and after the pandemic, there was even bigger reasons for people to not do
Yeah.
band. You
Yeah.
know, and those were two
And a
incidents.
lot of people didn't after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those are two incidents that I wasn't going to fight anyone on.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely was not going to fight anybody for that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I didn't. Like there, you know, I had a couple of people ask me or talk to me personally and say they didn't want to do it anymore, and I supported them.
Me being one.
Like, except for you,
I was one of
I
them.
did tell you to stay. I did
That
refuse
is
your resignation.
that is very true.
I took your resignation letter and
Yeah.
I ripped it.
Yeah.
But like anybody else, I didn't fight them because that was a much different situation, you know. But regardless, the people who do stay, like, they're here for a reason. And I want to make sure that while they're here, it's a good time. And that, you know, like I always say, that I want them to be better people, whether it's in music or whether it's in their personal lives, than they were the day before.
It's very John Wooden of you.
Is it?
Yeah. The whole success, blah blah blah, is not whatever the quote was that we had. I really wanted to memorize it at one point, but I really can't remember it. But do you feel like that pressure because what you teach is considered a co-curricular or an extracurricular? It's not really a gen ed. It's not a math class that you're supposed to take. Like you kind of have that pressure of like, well, to keep this going, people are gonna have to enjoy themselves at one point, or like build community with each other.
Yeah, there is that pressure.
Mm.
I do think, though, that if I feel like if those are your intentions and if they are like true intentions, then it's gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. Like if you were really intent on that, then you're not going to be like the dictator director. You know, you're not
Yeah.
going to be the director that only shoots for superiors at festivals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like
Mm-hmm.
your real intentions are going to show there. You know,
Yeah.
but it also really largely has to do with like who I am as a person too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who I am as like my authentic self, I guess, in front of them. Like that's the hugest thing, is like being yourself in front of them. If yourself is the type to really, you know, dig deep and get really, really high stats at festivals and stuff like that, well, if you're yourself, then actually your kids are still going to enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, everybody knows a phony, like whether they realize it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if your true self is that, and the kids vibe with it, then you're there. You know what I mean? But like for me, that wasn't really what I wanted. And so my vibe ended up being very like safe spacey, you know. I
Yeah.
had a lot of, you know, students feel more comfortable to like, you know, to like tell me that they wanted to go by different pronouns at that point also, or to even just like talk to me because they had like a bad day and stuff. You know, some directors aren't into that, and that's okay too also.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I didn't want to be like a mentor. I just wanted people to be comfortable, and I wanted people to like want to come to band, you know.
Did you ever find yourself putting on the pressure of sort of being a therapist for some of the 15, 16-year-olds? I
Yeah.
mean, speaking from personal experience, I did sort of use you as a pseudo therapist for, well, until I'm right now.
Yeah.
Just because you have the knowledge to, I don't know. And it's also the safe space thing. You know, your office was very much my safe space in high school. But did you ever feel like you were ever guiding someone the wrong way, or you were scared of like, you know?
Well, no, only because I'm not allowed to, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
also it's also not very appropriate for me to get that deep.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that I can help with somebody, like in just like general regulation stuff, you know,
Mm-hmm.
regulation of their feelings, like that's usually what we talk about, you
Yeah.
know, of just general like, how do we short game this panic attack? How do we you know what I mean? Like, how do we like do this sort of stuff? It's not really appropriate of me to really dig into their personal lives
Yeah.
and to really like try to fix them. Like
I find that
that's not appropriate.
I find that in high school the kids usually led with their personal lives with you. You never really asked.
Oh yeah,
They
no.
kind of just,
Oh no, yeah.
because it genuinely was that sort of safe space for a lot of us.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I guess I was watching Abbott Elementary recently.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in like perspectives of teachers and being sort of a therapy figure in their in or like a mentor in other people's lives. Do you ever feel, well? other than me, do you ever feel? Because we do know each other. As a preface for the podcast, we do know each other fairly well. We've known each other for about 6 years since I was
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
So you know, and since I was 16, there's been rare that we don't speak for a week. The longest we went was when I was in the Philippines and I didn't have data.
Mhm.
But did you ever feel that pressure, like with me specifically? Because I went to you you're one of the first people that I tell for good news or bad
Mhm.
news.
Mhm.
You like I'm not exactly your student anymore.
No.
So do you ever feel that pressure still to like guide me the right way?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But I
Well,
don't.
that's cool.
Pressure is not the right word, though.
Mm,
You know, pressure has a negative connotation to it.
it's true.
So I wouldn't say pressure.
Mm,
It's just you know, I still just want to make sure you're doing okay.
yeah. I'm doing great now, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I kind of wanted to pivot into I we have a fairly similar history with music in that we both did something else for a second and then came back.
Hmm.
What was it that made you like come back to music? Because you were an English major
Hmm.
at UCR
Hmm.
for a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that came back to APU,
CBU.
CBU, one of them?
Um, lots of things. I mean, the big defining moment for me was music was always still like that was when I started dating Mrs. Encina also.
Yeah.
We were like only a year, like a couple of months into it,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a double music major. No, I think at the time she was only a single music major
Mm.
at Chapman University. And
Right.
so she would tell me about all the music stuff they're doing, and it sounded like so much fun and keep me up to date. And I'd go to her performances whenever I could and stuff, you know. Um, and then we would like talk about music a lot, and I would talk about it, you know, as passionately as I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while she was always like, you really should be a music major, you really should be.
Mm-hmm.
And like I had thought it a little bit like going into college, but like it's the same old tale of there's no money in music,
Yeah.
there's no secure future in music. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not untrue, but
Yeah.
and, you know, there's you know all of that sort of stigma. And it's like anybody, like I want a job that makes me money,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, because money is security, like all that sort of stuff, you know? So I didn't. And like, as if there's even more money in majoring in English, creative writing, no less, also. You know, that was really foolish of me. But, and that year, I didn't even take any major classes. It was all like gen ed classes that
Mm-hmm.
time. The closest I took to it was like an English elective that still counted for like an English class
Mm-hmm.
that was on like very old literature, and it was a rough class. We're talking like um,
Beowulf.
the Decameron,
Oh God.
and like some old like Japanese novels too. Also, like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking like 10 like the 1000s and stuff that have been like translated over and over and over again and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a rough class. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I was also in just like the regular English class that everybody's got to take, right? No
Mm-hmm.
matter what your major is, you got to pass these English classes. And the assignment of that day was the most basic assignment: read this excerpt of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then respond to it. Like it
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be more simpler than that, right? And so I remember that afternoon I had an afternoon off, and my dorm mate was gone, so I had the whole dorm to myself, and it was like a beautiful day outside. So I opened up the window, there was a nice breeze coming through. I put on soft music on my computer, and I got comfy on my bed, and I picked up the book and I started to read it. And then like I got like one paragraph in, and I had this like flash forward moment to me like walking across the stage 4 years later,
Mm-hmm.
getting my diploma, and it says, you know, my name, you
Mm-hmm.
know, English, creative writing, and then just sort of just like looking at it and just going like, well, now what? and
I
and that
never knew this.
and that got really that was really frightening.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and then I thought more like, what's it going to take to get here? I was like, this assignment, but more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I'm going to have to read a lot more. I'm going to have to write a lot more, because
Mm-hmm.
guess what? It's an English degree, and guess what? It's a creative writing degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about it. I was like, when was the last thing I actually like wrote? And it might have been like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Freshman year of high school. Yeah.
and like on my own, not for an
Mm-hmm.
assignment or whatnot. You
Right,
know what I
right,
mean?
right.
And then I think I might have just said to myself, I might have just went like, I can't do this.
Mm.
Like I really can't do this. And so I kind of dealt with it for the rest of that quarter. And then the next quarter, I took an elective for music. It was like a music 101 class. It wasn't
Mm.
nothing too specific. It was kind of just like a quick 101 on Western music theory, Western
Okay.
music history.
Okay.
I even forget the name of the course, but it was like super easy. I remember it was at an annex. It was at a movie theater that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't attached to the university. It was like a brief walk down to this movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to take this class with like the movie screen and stuff like that. And the professor, I forget his name also too, but like just went over again briefly everything with like music examples and stuff. And I was so happy in that class. I was so
Mm-hmm.
genuinely happy in that class, even though it was like baby music history,
Yep.
like not at all specific and not at all a
Yep.
hard class to get through. But I remember like how happy I was, and I was telling that to Mrs. Encina over and over and over again, like sharing with her everything. And of course, she's ready to learn all that stuff, so she was like, "Yeah, that's right," yada yada, and like showing me more stuff, and
Yeah.
like, and then so then I think that summer, like I made a decision, like I'm not gonna go back, like I'm gonna send my FAFSA to CBU,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna see what I can do to move over. And so I knew people there, so I got a small scholarship. But
Mm-hmm.
it was a scholarship, it was better than nothing. And I just
Were you
started at
technically a
CBU.
transfer?
I was, well, yeah, it's a transfer.
Yeah.
Not as
Did you audition for timpani?
no, I didn't need to audition, or
No.
rather, maybe I like skirted by the audition because I knew the people.
Ah.
And so they knew that I was going to be in playing drum set for the choir and orchestra, like pops orchestra, as
Okay.
my primary. And I joined in initially wanting to get a digital arts degree
Mm-hmm.
because at that time it was I zeroed in on what I thought I wanted to do, which was like production, like record production.
Right.
So I started in at digital arts, only to be found on like the day of orientation that they were like, we have to not, we're not allowed to continue the programs because we don't have enough
Oh my
people
god.
signed up for it.
So what
So
did you get?
I got instrumental performance instead.
Okay.
That was like my backup.
Right.
I think like the three ones I chose were like digital arts, instrumental performance, and music education. And I was like, and I really hope it's not music education.
Really?
I will never ever be a music educator in my life.
Really?
It was my life. It was my goal to never ever be a teacher
Why?
because I didn't want to be responsible for messing up somebody's experience in music.
Wow.
It
So
was
you felt that pressure even more.
it was never that I was like above teaching or any of that. It was just that I did not want to be responsible for the inevitable first couple of years when you're kind of shaky at
Mm-hmm.
teaching and whatnot. You're still trying to get your bearings, and during that time, like unintentionally, just messing up somebody's perception of what music should be, or like
Mm-hmm.
a music class or whatnot. Like I was deathly afraid of that because like I'd had nothing but great music teachers in my life, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just avoided it like the plague.
So what made the pivot to? Because I got you maybe when I was 14. You were doing gold band.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of your first few years
that
doing that.
that was probably then I think my third
Yeah.
year at Osos.
Yeah. So what made you do that circle?
It was the first initial job.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I in 2014 that summer, that was when Mrs. Encina got the choir position at Los
Mm-hmm.
Osos, and that was amazing. We we
Mm-hmm.
were we were so happy. We were so elated that she got that job. We read like the benefits package and everything. We were so elated.
Insurance.
Well, like it was also what made it more special was that like she had told me for years that was her dream. She was like, it would be so great if one day like when Mr. Slater retires, I
Mm-hmm.
can like
Go
come and
back
like
to
and teach Osos. And she's
yeah.
like, but that'll never happen. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that, and then it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also like surreal that like this is finally happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that same summer, when she's like, getting her classroom ready and all that sort of stuff and whatnot, I get a Facebook message from one Dave Natal,
Right.
who at the time was not teaching there anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
had been teaching for like the last like 10 years or something like that. And
Was that a marching or was that music instructor?
marching. Well, both. He was
Yeah.
drumline,
Okay, that's right.
but he's a huge name also in like Blue
Mm-hmm.
Devils marching percussion and stuff too. Also,
Yeah.
so he did both,
Okay.
and was really tight with the percussion instructor. before me also,
Mm.
and so he'd been at the school for like a long time.
Okay.
He sent me a Facebook message saying like, hey, just so our current percussion instructor just quit, and it is the day before band camp.
Right.
And Doc isn't here right now. He's in Europe. So
Oh.
like, is it? Do you possibly have any days off where you can come and just like help out? Because
Mm-hmm.
we just need
You're an
people.
alumni,
We just
so
need people to cover.
you
Yeah,
sort of knew the program a little.
sort of. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew by that point it had been 7 years. I
Mm.
graduated in '07. This was 2014, so it had been 7 years, and so I was like, things have to be different by
Yeah.
now. But I have my degree,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not really in teaching. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have a degree in percussion. I know this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, I guess so. Like, I was working full time in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
but that day I happened to have like 2 days off during the week, and so I was like, yeah, I guess so. I'll go over, and
Mm-hmm.
so I did, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun.
Was it then that it clicked for you that you could be a teacher, or was it
No,
later?
it was not then either,
Oh.
because it was my last day, and I
Mm-hmm.
told the kids like, hey, so this is a lot of fun, but
Mm-hmm.
this is my last day, like with y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happens, like I hope, you guys.
Yeah.
I wish you guys well, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? That sort of stuff. And then, like, a week later or so, I get a text from Doc
Mm-hmm.
asking me if I would be wanting to stay on as one of the full instructors.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, I've never done this before. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, I've also, like, I have a degree in percussion performance, but that's not necessarily marching. And that's also, I've been sort of separated from the activity for like years and since I graduated,
Mm-hmm.
but he honestly, I think he was desperate at the time. I think he was pretty desperate, and he just like needed somebody. And then, like, in the back of his mind, like, honestly, like, there may have been some faith in me, but I think there was also like, well, if we have a placeholder for now, we can find somebody else for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to be honest, that was also Pete Sappin's mindset. He
Yeah.
absolutely freely tells me this now.
I remember you told me that they were kind of trying to see how long you would survive with Pete.
I wouldn't say they were.
Yeah,
He
he
was.
was. Okay,
Yeah, he
okay.
was. He absolutely was. Because I was a nobody. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still not really a somebody, and like, um, and Pete is like the most somebody that can be in that activity too. So like,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty. And since we have to work well together, he doesn't know who I am. Of course, there's going to be some suspicion. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
some like trepidation or whatnot. You know what I mean?
He
So I
wasn't there when you were a
no,
student.
no,
Okay.
but he was already kind of a legend, and
Mm-hmm.
like, I was learning his beats like as a high schooler too, also. So when Doc told me that I was gonna be working with Pete Sappinen, like, it was like my heart like fell out of my butt, like hearing about that,
I'm glad I didn't have any of that context when I started working with Pete for first period because I didn't give a shit. I didn't gaff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
give up.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Never mind. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then basically my love for it just kind of grew that
Mm-hmm.
year, as much as I was still trying to learn how to do things and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And then, like, the next year happened, and it was kind of just happening more and more, which is kind of like, I'm really enjoying this. And actually, like, not that this is like easy, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel like I'm picking up on this like quicker than I thought that I would. And then, actually, due to that, Pete was also getting me more jobs also
Mm.
at other schools that he was teaching that needed front ensemble help too. And so I would go with him with that and stuff. And so I was doing more
I remember
teaching.
you guys used to come to my middle school and do a little master class or
To
whatever.
Vineyard.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we started doing that too, and that was Doc's idea, and we were
yeah.
like, "That's a good idea," because then if they're going to be working with us anyways,
Mm-hmm.
then that way they get used to the system right away, and then they're kind of plugged in right away,
You
and
know,
that really did help.
because of that, I thought for maybe the first few months of marching band that your name was Pete.
Ew.
Yeah, because I was like, I'm not a percussionist. I never got to talk to you guys in middle school because I was a bass clarinet, and I was like, oh my god, look, there's Pete. Completely wrong, so wrong.
Yeah.
When did you start like conducting?
So, when you get your undergrad, you have to take conducting classes, which I did. Um, I still remember the piece that I had to do, and I wonder if I can do it for my recital. I'm not sure if I can, but it was Appalachian Spring, but it
Oh,
was specifically a chamber version. There's a version scored for 13 instruments.
right.
There are some strings in it though, so I don't know if that's not okay for my particular degree,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard. That's a hard conduct.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you listen to it, it sounds very straightforward, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my final assignment. But I remember also like having to conduct the concert bands on my own also, well, like, with the rest of the class and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was very frightening. It was very, very, very frightening. And I hadn't really conducted since, but I believe that year I had also decided, I was like, I think I want to go back and get my master's. Like, I think I want to do music education. Like, really,
Mm-hmm.
I think I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I got accepted into APU. And then,
With Dr. Burdett?
yes. And
Still
then
remember.
at that time also, I think there were only two bands. There was the wind ensemble and the concert bands. Doc ran the wind ensemble
Mm-hmm.
of respectable wind ensemble size, and Mr. Evans ran the rest of them, which was
Yeah.
like 150 people in
Yeah.
one concert band.
Yeah.
So bless his heart, that's a hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mr. Evans was like begging Doc like to have a third conductor,
Uh-huh.
and Doc didn't know who like to do that. But since I started those classes again, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's when Mr. Evans was all like, "Give it to Solomon,
Mm-hmm.
like give it to me."
What year did you start?
2016,
Also, my year was
your second year.
your second
Yeah,
year, yeah.
because my first band was Blue Band, and then it switched over to Gold Band, and
And
then
then
I
you
had,
switched to Will Ensemble.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and so that was my first year. I'll be honest with you, I don't really remember much from that first year. Like, I don't remember the pieces I programmed and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I remember Doc kept me on a very loose leash, which was very nice. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
micromanage or anything like that. And my bands did fine. My band scored about as well as Mr. Evans's band did, if
Mm-hmm.
not like a little bit less, which
Mm-hmm.
sort of makes sense. There's not a whole didn't have a whole lot of training of like how to handle that sort of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
and so it just sort of kept growing from there, and then doing more and then staying more, doing more percussion stuff and doing more percussion ensemble stuff, doing more teaching stuff. Mrs. Encina eventually asking me to teach the guitar class also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got very, very,
That I
very
remember. I
busy.
think my brother was in that class at one point. He took guitar in high school.
Maybe not with me then.
Oh, then
Yeah,
you're probably missing him.
probably. And yeah, like that. And I just ended up essentially, maybe a little bit less, but essentially sort of becoming assistant director. I
Mm-hmm.
was just doing a whole lot with them,
Mm-hmm.
and living at Osos for a long while doing like night classes for APU.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got that, doing night classes for my credential also.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my first memories of you in Gold Band, I still have this video or picture somewhere on my phone, but you had like long hair, a blue strip in your hair. And I think Mrs. Encina also had.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cute. so, so you did conducting. You started conducting, and then eventually you had to become the band director.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I remember a conversation with you, like maybe 2 weeks before the incident, before you became the band director,
Really?
where you were like, we were talking about you and where you saw yourself in 5 years. And you were like, oh, I'm probably not going to be an OSOS anymore. I'm probably going to go get my doctorate, somewhere. And lo and behold, 5 years later,
That's a little scary.
yeah, you got it. I mean,
I don't got it,
you
but
didn't. Well, you didn't see the road ahead, but you still 5 years later, it's still where you thought you were going to be.
that's a little scary. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember
I
that
remember that
exchange between you and
so
I,
vividly.
but that's a little
It
scary.
wasn't just you and me; it was you, me, Alina, and Brianna.
Really?
And I remember this, and I know it's right because they remember it too.
Like just chilling in the office.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. One of the days where we were sort of left to our own devices and to close up and whatever, and you were there just being you. Yes, I didn't really know what you were there like at night.
I might have been tired after a rehearsal or something like that, and just like not wanting to drag myself to my car or something.
That did happen a lot.
Okay, well, yeah. That's a little scary. Yeah, I mean the goal was never to get Osos. It was never the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like in a way that like Mrs. Encina's dream was to like eventually come back and get it. Like that was never on my radar ever. So
it is kind of crazy though that you and Mrs. Encina and Dr. Renz and Dr. G have been two like couples that have been both people have been my teachers, and or I end up working with them because I see Mrs. Encina on Wednesdays where we work together, which is crazy. It's just something that I was telling Dr. G about. She was like, "What are the chances that you do that?" It's very low.
That is very low, yeah.
So you're at Osos, and you start getting the itch for a doctorate? Why? When? How did that start?
Oh, I didn't start getting the itch. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
had the itch.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Gross.
yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I started
yeah, I know.
it.
I stupidly walked into the door.
Yep.
Um, I, what I always told my students, because like this usually happens when during like third period symphonic bands with like the freshmen who don't really know me,
Mm-hmm.
So to like get to know me, like I will do deep dive sessions, just like anybody just like ask me anything,
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful thing is that whenever I do that, rarely do I get somebody asking me just like a dumb question, like rarely,
Yeah.
which makes me surprised, like because I'm always like waiting for like the dumb
Yeah. They're
question,
always interested. I
Yeah,
feel
and
like high schoolers especially are very interested in their teachers' lives.
it always seems like, well, it always seemed like the first people to ask the questions were like the seniors that were still
Mm.
in symphonic bands, and so since they already know
Bias.
me, they would ask like the deeper questions. They
Right.
would ask the more like meaningful questions and stuff, which sort of opened the door for other people to ask adjacent questions,
Mm-hmm.
or even lighter questions like on a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will ask stuff about like my future. They're like, like, do you want to be doing this forever? And I'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, at the time I'd be like, what, I don't know. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know that like it is my goal to get my doctorate at some point. I was like, I don't know when it's going to be, but and the reason I always told them, and it still is true, is I'm not really going through education in from elementary till now, my doctoral studies.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that I don't really have good potential for anything else other than music, honestly. And not that I don't try. I was just talking to some friends today how, one of them was thinking about getting their math credential.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're studying up for the CSET for math. And I'm just like, you are insane. And they were just like, and math just like makes sense to me. I'm like, you are absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And just sharing with them how like I tried
Mm-hmm.
so much in high school. I really did. There was never a class. I didn't do good in every class, but there was never a class that I didn't like give my full effort in. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like paying attention to my like calculus lessons, and like
Mm-hmm.
really paying attention and taking notes and listening to the teacher's instructions in full, and like reading like in the text and like getting the formulas down and whatnot. And then it's time to do the practice, and all the questions just look wrong to me.
Uh-huh.
Like, and I get them all wrong, like this doesn't look like that anymore. Like, what am I doing
Mm-hmm.
wrong? And yada, it just didn't make sense. Like, could I have used a tutor? Like, yeah, but I was in band,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
so and so like I wasn't really good at much else. Like I got A's in other classes, but it's like it's easy to get an A in English, right? Like just do the work.
That's true.
Just do the work. Just read the book
Mm-hmm.
and then answer the questions to the book. Like,
I think that's where I went wrong.
so that's not an ability thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a
Like
laziness.
my abilities seem to not jive with math, just
Yeah.
straight up. So when I had to take sciences that also involved math, like that hurt for me also too.
Mm-hmm.
Like chemistry was really tough because of all the
Yeah.
equations you have to do for chemistry,
Oh
and
yeah.
I could not do it. Foreign languages, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
Foreign languages may as well be like learning
Did
an
you ever
instrument.
did you ever dip your toes in like the other humanities? I know we didn't have a philosophy class.
I
I feel like
did
you
when
did.
I did when I was at UCR actually.
Mm.
I took. I mean, these were all 101s, right? Because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
freshman, so I took a sociology course.
Mm-hmm.
I took an anthro course
Yeah.
at Chaffey, actually. I took a philosophy course. That was a 102. Um, and I took a 101 on psychology also. So yeah, I delved in those,
It
and
just didn't click.
it just, it was fine. But it just didn't interest me as much as
Yeah.
music did.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you the stuff I learned on them. I know I can tell you I passed those classes, but
Mm-hmm.
even like I took an econ class also, I think, because I had to. That was when I learned how to download Nintendo emulators on my laptop. And so that's largely what I did in that class. I actually
Uh-huh.
don't know how I passed that class, but I
Uh,
did. Same thing with the computer science course. I took a computer science course also.
you wouldn't catch me dead in a computer science
The
course.
only thing I remember from that course is that the lecture hall was like looked at as something from 300. It was like like way down. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
enter into the lecture hall, like the guy was like way down there. It was like really scary. So
Oh.
I just always sat in the back of the class.
Mm.
I remember going to the computer lab to take a test, and it was much like the computer competency test at OSOS.
I never even studied for that test, and
I didn't either, and
yeah, I
I
just
still
took it.
passed.
I forgot that I had to take it, so I just scheduled it and went for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's all good. But the final in that class, I remember that class being kind of tough eventually. Yeah, I forgot that I took a computer science class in that also too. Yeah, so I guess I did sort of roundabout a little bit, and I took
Mm-hmm.
biology also. I continued taking Spanish, like at CBU also. I took a journalism course actually.
Mm.
I never really told you because it didn't really impact me that much. Like it was a
Yeah.
journalism course where, again, probably like a 101.
To be fair, I took a journalism course and I didn't learn anything.
Hmm,
I learned more by being just doing it.
yeah,
Yeah, because
no,
I had to learn.
yeah, no, I was locked in on music. I was fully locked in on music, and like there
Mm.
was nothing that was like going to convince me otherwise. I
Yeah.
don't have anything bad to say about any of the other like humanities or the other like subjects and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. It's just that like I see it more as just kind of like I can't handle those.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can handle music, and music is like what I enjoy.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
it sort of scares me though, because for me, like music is I wrote it all month last month for my college apps, and just like who are you and what do you do, or some stupid ass question like that for college apps. And I kept saying I'm a humanities major, but my roots are firmly planted in music.
Hmm,
But I was writing it and I was like, is this even true anymore?
hmm,
Because I was so focused. I'm so focused right now on my sociology class or
hmm,
on my anthro class because they're honors classes and I have to do well
hmm,
to graduate with the honors program, and my history classes. And I'm a double major now, and it kind of scares me that I'm like splitting my focus too much.
hmm,
Because I did apply for a BA for all of my schools
hmm,
because I'm not really comfortable being just a music major,
hmm.
but I also want to be just a music major. So it's like a weird thing for me right now where I'm having to try to think on what do I prioritize in the next, you know, 3 or so years, and
Hmm.
it's probably I'm hoping music wins out because I still want to be a conductor and I still want to be a professor in music, but I'm so interested in this other thing, and it's like splitting my focus.
Hmm.
It's so weird. I wish I could just be like music, music, music.
Well, I guess I mean when you decide on where you're going to go,
Mm.
you'll have an entrance counselor. You'll have an academic counselor.
Yeah.
You won't be the first person to say that you're being ripped in half
Yeah.
with these two desires.
Mm.
They'll probably find a way for you to be able to fulfill both. At the same time,
Oh.
you also haven't really been locked in with music for a minute.
Yeah.
Like you sort of taken a break from that also,
Yeah.
and that's totally cool too.
And taking that break was needed.
Hmm.
Well, the first part of the break was awful,
Hmm.
just horrible because all I wanted to do was music, and then finding journalism and getting into like history and stuff, and then coming back to music as well. It's been nice, but I haven't like fully committed to it.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
weird, and it's like not. It feels very much not me because I was so committed to music in high school,
Hmm.
and like in the 1 month of college that I did at a conservatory, all I had was music.
Hmm.
It's so weird splitting now and
Hmm.
not really putting as much effort as I could in the club that I run for music
Hmm.
or in the choir that I'm a part of. So, but I don't know, I'm like too split right now. I hope that when I'm finished with the honors program, finished with all this, I can just focus in again.
I would imagine you might be feeling this way, might be, or maybe because like you have known from the start, which I really appreciate, just for the start of your future,
Mm.
that Chafee is not your end goal, and
Yeah.
that this is a place of transition. This is
Mm-hmm.
a place for you to sort of well, it's a transition. It's a
Get my
transitional place.
bearings
Yeah, that
again.
sort of stuff. And so maybe that's because you don't really feel pressure right now to like zero in on something.
Yeah, no, I
Not
don't.
to mention like you might not need to zero in on something.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to try to take both courses of action and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's a smart idea for you, you'll have to figure that out. You'll have to figure that out with like the university and stuff too, also. But like,
Yeah.
nobody's telling you got to give up one or the other, and I know that's not what you're thinking either, too.
Mm-hmm.
But like, maybe you're not feeling quite so like anxious over it right now because it's like you're still in a transitional period,
That's true.
and which is okay. Like, and if that's the case, then you should embrace that. Like embrace like the feeling of not having a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm.
on making that decision and just sort of enjoy where you are right now.
Yeah. So I'm your favorite student. Why is that?
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
kidding. I'm kidding. Uh, yeah, that's a lot. But I wanted to ask you. This okay. I know we're doing a pod right now, but I did want to ask you about your music law um
Oh,
class. I'm very interested in it because I haven't been able to like really sit down and talk to you about it.
what do you want to know?
Just like what is I know you guys did some stuff about AI.
No.
You haven't
Well, actually, sort of.
sort
Only
of
because the laws aren't really written for AI yet.
okay. So but like the copyright laws of
Hmm.
with music.
Hmm.
How what's that like learning about that now?
It's kind of weird understanding that copyright law is actually still kind of new.
Mm.
We still are going after the copyright law of 1976, and that was really when it was like super codified and like what we like kind of deal with now. There were earlier ones,
Hmm.
and there were also earlier statutes in like in the UK in like the 1800s and that sort of stuff too also.
Look, huge fly. Gross.
um there was all that, but it was a little like it's good to have protections for artists,
Hmm.
but it's amazing how it just like takes the love out of music. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like I bet all the law students in the class were very much like, yeah, this is business as usual, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But like when it came down to, for instance, when we were talking about case studies and we were talking about like actual cases that have been brought to lawsuit and stuff like that. The professor like got like the exhibits of like evidence and like showed like this is what the plaintiff argued is similar to this, and this is what the plaintiff argues that this is like stolen from this, stolen from this, stolen from this,
Hmm.
and then so the professor would then ask and go like, so what do you guys think of that? And like usually the law students would have nothing to say,
Hmm.
and the music students, I remember like there was one person, she's a flute in wind ensemble.
Hmm.
We both kind of were always just kind of like, what? What? Like it's very like, oh, so this melody goes da 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 and that melody goes da da da, so you can see how it's similar, and it's like, no,
Uh-huh.
yes, but like what you're saying is that your client
Hmm.
owns those three notes. You can't do that. And
Yeah.
actually the copyright law does state that there are certain things that lays out like things that are uncopyrightable, things that you can't, that don't hold up in court, that you
Hmm.
can't claim like you wrote this or that you own this. So
Hmm.
luckily there is a lot of that within the law. There's a lot of complicated timelines too also of like when it's not even like when this becomes public domain. Like that's
Mm.
a very like reductionist look at it, because it's very much not
Hmm.
what we think it is. I think we think we say it's like 75 years, something like that.
I thought it was
It's really not that.
really.
It's a lot more to it than that, and especially when it's a post 1976 publication. It's very complicated. It'll be like some of them are like a 56-year time span. Some of it will be like a 90-year time span, with like an option to extend it. And then there will also be like lengthy timelines to where you can terminate your agreement, to where you can sort of like buy back your rights from the publisher within a
Mm.
certain amount of years and whatnot. And then like they have a certain amount of time to respond to this and yada yada. It was actually very, very complicated. But when it came down to like studying the case studies, it also kind of, again, just sort of, it was a little disheartening.
Hmm.
Um, not because the class was bad, but just because like this is what people get their rocks off on, is like, like there was one case of, it was some Christian rapper sued Katy Perry's Dark Horse,
Oh.
um, because the rapper claimed that like, Dark Horse has like the like like that. A
Hmm.
rapper did something similar in his music of a similar like nature, but like claimed outright like that's like she stole my music and I am entitled to millions of dollars of money of like of damage money and stuff like that. And it's like, first of all,
Damn.
like that's not a good look for you, my guy. Like that's uh,
Emotional damage.
like that's not a good look for you, my guy. Like I'm just like, it really just sort of boils down to pretty much all the cases. There was not one case that we went over, and of course we didn't go over every single one, but we went
Hmm.
over like many of like the very publicized ones. Like we
Hmm.
went over the Marvin Gaye Ed Sheeran
Right.
one also
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Like again, then kudos to Ed Sheeran also too. Like I'm not really a fan of your music, but I'm a fan of your convictions.
You don't like the math symbol albums? Yeah.
I couldn't sing you back a song from Ed Sheeran.
See,
I
I'm trying to think of one. I can't think of
There you
one.
go. I mean, I just hear like
Shape of You, I
I
guess.
just hear a plucky guitar, just ding 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 ding
Just some
ding
white
ding.
guy rapping in the
Yeah, you know,
background.
Ronald Weasley.
Yeah.
The most I know Ed Sheeran from, the most I know him from is from a movie called Yesterday. It's about,
The Beatles?
yeah.
The
Um,
new one?
it came out in like 2019.
In my head, that's new.
That's
That's the last time I paid attention to, culture.
that is 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not, so it's not new.
To me, it is.
Not only that, but it's pre-pandemic, so that's even
Oh,
more like not new.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, he's in that
Ew,
movie.
pre-pandemic.
Um, he plays a stinker in that movie, which is actually kind of nice. He like meets up with the musician and like challenges him to a song off. Like he's like, I challenge you. You know, we're gonna have 10 minutes.
Like Pitch Perfect rules.
I've never seen that movie, so I
Oh
don't
my god.
know.
Uh-huh.
They challenge each other like they're gonna go off and they get 10 minutes to write a song and then they'll come out and like play it and then the audience gets to decide like we know what to do. And so he plays an Ed Sheeran type of thing and whatnot. And then the guy comes out playing The Long and Winding Road by the Beatles.
Uh-huh.
And Ed Sheeran the whole time is kind of not angry. He's just kind of like somber the whole time. And then like they're like, all right, let's vote on. And Ed goes like, no, like no vote. Like, and I think his words are like, they always told me there was somebody that was going to come that was better than me. Like, but
That's so along the lines of like when Narnia would like don't cite the old magic tune that was there when it was written.
sort
Sort
of,
of.
but like it was kind of gross, and he was
The
like, they
prophecy.
always told me that somebody was going to come that was better than me, you
Who,
know.
who? The Oracle? Like
Well,
who
it's like,
told you that?
well, it's like better than you. Like, who are
You're
you?
Ed
You know,
Sheeran,
you're not
bro.
Michael Jackson, you know. And so, like, but like the fact that he like is playing up this character, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? That's a good sport, you know. And
Okay.
so that, and then the Marvin Gaye case, like
Mm-hmm.
that was like, I think I like him as a person,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
love it when they're able to play caricatures of themselves.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Why did I bring that up? Oh,
Flaw.
just like talk about Ed
Copyright.
Sheeran. Yeah,
Yeah.
and well, I mean, because yeah, the Marvin Gaye case. I mean, like the Marvin Gaye estate is they're awful people. Like they're just kind of just
Right.
awful people. Like Ed Sheeran is not the
Rumor
first
has it
person.
so was Marvin Gaye.
I think so,
Yeah.
but I think his parents were even worse.
Damn.
His dad did murder him. So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
his
fun.
dad murdered him kind of in cold blood also too. And so like the keepers of his estate, they're just like heavily litigious people, um, and um, and that's kind of the vibe you get from all these people. There's another one, Bruno Mars, um, the song, you know, I hope he brings you
Oh
flowers. What
yeah.
song is that?
When I was your man.
Okay, and then Miley Cyrus had a song called Flowers.
Flowers.
Yeah,
And it was sort of connected.
yes,
Yeah.
but Bruno Mars's people, not Bruno Mars himself. He was
Mm-hmm.
actually very explicit in that, like he did not agree
He
with
didn't get off.
with this, you know.
Yeah.
But like Bruno Mars's people, yeah, brought that to suit. That one was the closest because like clearly this song is in response to that
Yeah.
song,
I can
but
buy myself that.
yeah, like there's no doubt that that
Yeah.
song is in response to that song, but that doesn't mean that it's plagiarism, you
Right.
know. And there's a part in the copyright law that protects parody and satire.
Right.
And like that Miley Cyrus song kind of falls between those two,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because it's not a parody, it's not a satire, but it's also like in response to, you know. So
See all those Minecraft cover, they're protected under the law.
yeah, that falls under fair use also.
Yeah.
There's a thing there. We talked a little bit about fair use
Yeah.
also, which is also just really complicated. I mean, the thing is that the law itself can't be ironclad. It just can't. Like music is just that complicated, which is why we still have so many like ongoing lawsuits and stuff because like it's just not ironclad. Like stuff can still be brought forth and whatnot. There was a case that I studied specifically for as an assignment, and it was from a song that like from the '60s. I'd never heard of the song or whatnot, but back then these two songwriters they sold it to a publisher for $1. So clearly that was like a publisher like taking advantage of young musicians, right? So, but like it's still in rotation and stuff like that. But then last year, like we talked about termination rights.
Mm-hmm.
That song came up for termination under the law,
Right.
which meant that he could get that song back from the publisher and start getting that money himself instead of like a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So he invoked his right for termination, and the publisher gave him only like 25% of it, because the publisher goes all like, oh, well, this song has international presence and the law only covers domestic presence. And so we're just going to give you 25%. And so, yeah. And so they were like, no. And so he brought him to court, which I think won on appeal, actually. I think initially he lost,
Okay.
but then they took it. I could be wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then took it to an appeal court, and the appeal court said, like, it doesn't matter if it's domestic or international. Like for one thing, the law doesn't state whether it has to be domestic or international.
Mm-hmm.
It just says their song, their property. So you're not allowed to do that. And that was actually like a huge that's gonna like be
It's
a
like
wave.
setting a precedent.
Yes, like
Yeah.
a good one for songwriters' rights, especially the ones that got taken advantage of by shiesty music publishers and stuff. So there was a lot of good in that class. It was really
Your class is done
interesting.
now?
It's done now, yeah.
Okay.
Quarter's over. It was
All
really
right.
it was really interesting. Like my final exam, the professor had two melodies, like established melodies that are very similar,
Mm-hmm.
and he laid it out the way that it would in a case where every single pitch, well, actually both of them were transposed to the key of C, so that they're like the same key,
Mm-hmm.
and every pitch is numbered. And so using certain terms that are like musical, but they're also like very like law like.
Mm-hmm.
Our task was to use these certain tools to like explain these like bits of music. And so like one of like the proposed rules was like how melodies tend to work, which I thought was really interesting because it's very backwards to how we would learn it in music theory. But he also stated, which he made a point, he has separate law doctorates, a law doctorate and also a music doctorate.
Uh-huh.
So he knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, in your music theory classes, he was like, in your music classes, you don't really spend much time talking about melody, do you? And I was just like, it was one of those like, yeah.
You kind of got me there.
Yeah, like you do got me there. Like we
Yeah.
don't talk about melody. We talk a lot about harmonic structure. We talk a lot about the form. We talk about the analysis. We talk about cadential analysis. Talk about all this, but we don't talk about the construction of a melody. Which that is interesting. We will study melodies, but we don't really like talk about melodies that much.
I know that you're saying that is true from my experience as well. Even though I've only taken 4 music.
It's clearly it's true across the board too. And so he proposed a couple of different like trends that he sees in melodies, at least in pop music. And like one of them was like, if there's a leap in the melody, it's more often than not an ascending leap. So it's duh, like that, you know. And so the 2 examples he had those huge leaps. So you can talk about that because in a case, that's the stuff you argue. It's like, oh, they had the same exact intervallic leap. Like their leap was exactly both like major ninths. You know what I mean? So that is some way that you can argue that there's plagiarism here. You can say that they had a melody that both did like, 3 2 1 2 3 like that. If they both had 3 2 1 2 3 in the same rhythm, keys? Yeah, you can argue that.
What?
Yeah, and people have won like off of those arguments too. Also,
dang.
We also learned about like personalities and property and whatnot. There was one case of Bette Midler versus Ford Motor Company. So Ford Motor Company approached Bette Midler and said they wanted her to sing for this commercial. And Bette Midler said, no, thank you. So what they did was they hired an impersonator to sing like one of Bette Midler's like trademark songs. I'm not sure what it was. And they went ahead with the commercial. And Bette Midler was like, how dare you? And so she brought them to court and initially lost, but then they brought it to appeals. And the appeal court, the appellate court said like, so she said no, first of all, and taking somebody who's like an impersonator like of her is like, for a famous singer like Bette Midler, you're essentially taking her identity because her voice is her identity. And like her voice is like her like bread and butter, you know what I mean? So like you were clearly trying to like steal like her voice there. And so we were like in favor for Bette Midler, which that was another huge thing because now like you can't just like, then that in today's day, that'll deal with like deep fakes and that'll deal with like AI voices
Yeah.
and stuff like that, you know?
That is it bad that the first thing I thought of was Kanye and Taylor in that music video? That's the first thing I thought of.
So next quarter, I'm taking that AI music class.
Oh,
That I am interested in that class because I feel like AI music is here to stay,
yeah, definitely.
and I feel like I should know about
I
it.
remember you used it once, and you like sent me
Yeah,
like some
yeah.
of the
There's
prompts
there's
that you,
yeah. There's a
and I was like,
website that did.
"What the
It's scary.
hell?"
It's scary.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things I'm learning about AI that's like,
especially as a teacher, if you're grading stuff and you don't know if it's
yes and
yeah,
no. It's just because like much like an AI written essay,
mm,
you will
you can
know if
check.
it's your
Okay,
student.
okay.
Like there aren't really good checkers right now, from what I understand. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've asked a couple of
Yeah,
professors,
they're
like
horrible.
there are checkers for like outright plagiarism,
Yeah.
but there's not checkers for AI.
Mm-hmm.
But a professor who is actually like reading your work, they're gonna know if all of a sudden like the voice is changing a lot. You
Yeah,
know
I
what I
kind
mean?
of kicked myself. What's the saying? Kick myself in the butt? The foot?
What happened?
Shoot myself in the foot. There you go. Because I write in such a distinct way, and
Oh,
professors always know, and I can always tell when it doesn't sound like me. And I've tried it out a few times. I'm like, I can't turn that shit in. I can't turn any of it. I gotta do the homework by myself.
it can give you some nice ideas though.
Yeah.
Like I've used it like to like name. I think I used it once. I had to write a paper for one class I was taking, and it was a literature review
Mm-hmm.
for video games. I think
Mm-hmm.
for video game studies, and so I asked ChatGPT like, "Can you give me like a good title for a literature review for video game stuff?"
Yeah.
And it gave me like 10 different ideas, and like three of them were like bangers of
Mm-hmm.
titles, and I was like, "I am taking that." You know what I mean?
I use it as if I'm using Google, and then I'll check with Google of like, is this right? Or like if I'm looking for a book title or something or a type of book, I
Yeah,
use it like that
because
now.
I will admit I've been using AI a little bit more for studying tools.
Yeah.
Also, Google has an AI tool where I think I showed you where you can upload a PDF and it'll generate a
A podcast.
podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, you told me about that.
and so I started doing that for some PDFs that I had of stuff that I knew had facts in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was telling me wrong facts.
Mm.
The podcast we're telling was telling me wrong facts, and this it's called Notebook LM. They
Mm-hmm.
now have a beta feature where you can call in and ask them questions.
Okay.
So actually, I did that for the law for the assignment that I did for that case study.
Mm-hmm.
I uploaded the whole law document, and they were talking about it, and like I was asking them questions about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like responding like, "Yeah, you got it. Like that's exactly what it is," and it was kind of scary. But then for this one, there was like something like, for instance, like I knew this answer was like the symphony number 4, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, yeah, that happens in symphony number 7, and then I was like, wait a minute, and so like I called in again, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
are you sure it's symphony number 7 and not symphony 4? And they're like, yeah, we're positive it's symphony number 7, but no, it's symphony 4.
Well,
So
it's still scary.
so they're getting some things wrong
Yeah.
still. So
I
yeah.
remember you did an AI podcast once, and you put a prompt about you or something, and you sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're talking about you on the radio!" You got my ass so good. I was like, "Oh my, you're famous! Oh my god!" I freaked out.
That happened because my cohort fellow came in and he we were talking about a very famous wind ensemble composer,
Mm.
and he was like, I checked out this podcast and they're just like they're talking about him, and he turns it on and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, like that's really awesome. They're like talking about this composer, like I didn't know this existed. And he was like, you want to know something? He's like, this is AI. I
Not
was
the
like,
gotcha journalism.
no, it's not. And he was like, yeah, this is AI. And then so I was just experimenting for the whole day, and I was like, what if I put in like my professor's bio in this? Because you can just upload a website link,
Mm-hmm.
and it did, and it made a whole thing. And so I was like, I have a website bio now,
Uh-huh.
and so I put it in there, and it all came up just kind of like, this is really scary.
Yeah.
This is really
What am I
scary.
doing this? I could just put it in AI and
Yeah, I guess
put both our bios in it and see
it'll
what
be
happens.
it'll be really boring.
Yeah, probably. No Ed Sheeran talks in that one.
Mm-mm. That's what the people want.
Always. They love Ed Sheeran, as we all know. But that's all the time we've got.
Okay,
I want Jollibee.
all right, that sounds good.
But I wanted to thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
It's sort of last second, but not really.
not really.
You kind of knew that this was coming for you.
I did, but I didn't want to assume, just in case
Yeah.
you're tired of my prattling.
Never. How dare you? The premise of this semester's podcast is to go through sort of elementary school, high school, and college.
Hmm.
And I have an interview with an elementary school teacher. I now have you, and I have, a college professor as well. No one
Hmm.
from middle school. I don't remember much of middle school. I don't know.
Nobody does.
Yeah, it was 2 years.
Yeah, middle school is thank goodness it's so short because that's like the time where like everybody's most cringy.
I don't know, man. You knew me in high school. I was more cringy in high school.
I would imagine you were even more cringe in middle school.
Just how I dress was pretty cringed.
The way you dress is the way you act.
Yeah.
So more cringe.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You got me there.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
A farewell tour before I leave California.
For good.
I think it is for good, and people are not believing me when I say that. I'm like, we'll see. I think I'll miss the sun. Do you miss the sun?
100%.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time outdoors just getting sun. You can see I'm like a little bit pink.
Yeah.
Because I've just been like trying to get sun.
You get the watch tan line yet?
I think so.
Already? You've been here for a week? Oh, a little.
A little bit, yeah. I told people up there, I was like, my goal is for me to come back like noticeably darker. Like because I do miss it. I take vitamin D supplements also, and I don't really think it does anything.
I take vitamin D supplements here. My mom clowned me so hard for it. She was like, the sun is free. You should go outside. And I was like, she's like, why am I paying for medication where you can just go outside and, get sun drunk or whatever the hell people say?
It just feels good now. I mean, like, I really feel silly, like, being so like I never appreciated stuff around here, but like I really do. But like that comes off as if like I'm living like in squalor, like up in Seattle, and I'm really not. Like
it's so nice up there.
It is nice up there, and I don't live bad out there. My home is a little bit uncomfortable, and it's not. The housemates could be a whole lot better. It's just
From
like
what I've heard about them. Yes, they can be.
It's just like I don't know. I'm feeling more that like this is where I belong.
Yeah, and I assume you miss your wife.
A little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little. I miss my cat more.
What? I want to tell her on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. I'll be there too.
She won't believe me.
I'll be there too.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this with me.
Sure.
Thanks for doing it in the middle of a Barnes & Noble. I don't know if we actually mentioned that in the beginning. But we are in the middle of we're in the travel section.
Yeah, so we're not talking too loud.
Yeah, we're like in a, secluded corner where no one ever goes, except for that one person who works here.
Yeah. In the travel section where there are no books on Seattle.
I don't think I've ever been here.
I did once when I bought Mrs. Encina a book on Ireland, specifically because I wanted her to look through it and like tell me all the inaccuracies.
Before she went?
No, after she went.
Oh.
But I think I looked at it and I was like, I could probably buy her some better things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this was great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to edit this.
Oh boy.
Listen to my voice. Ugh.
Yeah, that's always the best part.